Right, watcher, welcome back. Okay, that was an hour, 1 hour of clean-up after painting. Using a garage as a spray booth is devastating to the state of the place, it really is. The dust gets absolutely everywhere, and when the time comes to do the proper custom paintwork on this, I'm going to sheet the whole place out like a Bedouin tent with plastic sheeting, including the walls so it doesn't go on the number plates. Everything's going to get sheeted out properly, but with a rattle can, even that is enough to cover everything. So came in here earlier, it's an hour's clean up. Came in at 9:30, it's 10:30 now, and that's done. So now the garage is back to a working condition that I can do things and they're not covered in 14 inches thick dust. So that's cool, that's that out of the way. Today, now this is done, this nose cone, it's on the bike, it's prepped, it's in the silver, and it's ready for the paint guy to come. Matt's going to come along, he's going to work his magic on this. When the rest of it's ready, we can do the whole thing in one go. And at the moment, in response to many of your requests, honestly, I have to say I don't know when that's going to be. This is 100 hours in, give or take, right now. We're going to be doing 5-6 hours today. It's an hour in already, and I don't even think I'm halfway. So I would say 200 to 250 hours before this is done, maybe even 300, who knows. I'm not putting a limit on it because I think then you start rushing, you start making different decisions to cut corners to get it in under a deadline. That's always a problem. Deadlines are restrictive, they're damaging to the creativity of a project, and also they're not fun. This has got to be fun, and I'm trying to use this project to demonstrate as many easy skills, some simple skills that I can, that you can do when you do your bike. That's why this is not a here it is, here's one I did earlier, finished project. There are projects out there, Street Fighter builds, chopper builds, that start and finish in the same 3-minute video. There's many of those, you can go and watch those, and we have been criticised for this being long-winded, but honestly, this is a build that may run for a year, and the idea is that you can follow it, you can do things yourself. Hopefully we inspire you to do things that you may not have done. So that's a windy old waffle, so that's what I'm trying to do here. Anyway, today I want to move on to the tank. This is an exciting time, I've been looking forward to this. The fuel tank needs something, it's not just going to stay as it is. I've seen many Street Fighter builds, and I think a very important thing, especially with the modern Street Fighters, the modern creative style of Street Fighters, is they need to be radical. There needs to be a radical look to them, even if it's not going to be a turbo aluminium beam frame, single-sided swing arm exotica. It's going to be a basic build, but it can still look exotic, it can still look different, and I'm going to try and do something with this tank that changes the shape and adds a little console. What I want on this tank is a little console here that I can put that digital speedo, that GPS digital speedo, little battery operated thing will go in, and I think that will be ideal for what it is. But rather than just put a little console on there, thinking like the old GPZ 750 Turbo console. Any of you who are old enough to remember that will know what I mean. It's like a console down the centre of the tank with all sorts of stuff in it. The VMAX, the early VMAXs had a little set of lights and a little, I think the rev counter was in the tank, that sort of thing, with that fake tank that was there. So many bikes have done this before, you can't claim a first on this, but I'm going to try and make it look interesting. The method I'm going to use for this will not involve welding on the tank. I don't want to weld on this tank because it's extremely thin, very, very thin, probably a millimetre thick, and obviously it's a pressed, stamped out tank, so I don't know whether they normalise the metal after they press it. So what that means very simply is when you bend and stretch something into shape, it stays there, but it's all under tension. It stays there, but it's all under force, and if you start manipulating it around and heating it, it can change shape, buckle and twist and split. And the fuel tank is very important. I don't want it to split because it leaks and then I've got to deal with it or buy another one. So this is too thin, I'm going to weld anything to it. The console is going to be bonded on using laminates, that sort of thing, you'll see it. And again, a different set of processes which hopefully can teach you something that you might be able to do yourself. Anyway, you'll see as we go along, there's no point in me standing there telling you what I'm going to do because that's boring. It's better to show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get stuck in. The first thing is going to be to prep this tank a little bit where it is. Now, a bit of a mentor of mine in painting was a fabulous guy, the late Milo. Any of you followed Milo Garage? He was a guy who'd been in paintwork for all of his life, and he was in his 60s when I picked him up on the internet. Sadly, he passed away some time ago, which is a tragic loss to YouTube and to the internet and to obviously his family, friends and everybody who knew him. But he was an absolute painting god. This guy, what he didn't know about paint, he could write on a postage stamp with a jumbo marker. This guy was absolutely packed with information, and I used to listen to the little tips he came out with, and one of them was, don't rub the paint off. The factory paint is the best undercoat you can possibly get because it's bonded to that tank better than anything you can lay on it. Oh yes it is. It's etched on in the first place, it's laid on by the factory, it's a proper quality paint, and obviously it's utterly petrol proof. So what I'm going to do with this, instead of just steel the tank, just bare metal it, I'm not going to weld to it so I don't need to. What I'm going to do is rub the decals off, take all the stickers off and just scotch it up. That's to get the Scotch-Brite, scuff it up so that I can stick things to it with fiberglass and bonding stuff and laminates, and that will then work. But at the moment I'm going to leave the paint on there. So the first job, rub the decals off, I'll show you how to do that, take these two bits of rubbish off and get it prepared. But the very, very first thing, before anything else, I'm going to empty it because this tank's going to be not used now for the purposes of delivering petroleum to the bike for a long time. It's been off the road now for probably 3 months. The petrol that's in there is a bit stale, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the motor now to empty the carbs. This is something that a lot of you need to do if you're going to lay a bike up. Start the engine up, run the motor, but with the fuel switched off. So effectively there's no fuel going to the carbs. That runs the carburetor float bowls bone dry. It empties them any fuel. So if there's no fuel in them, that fuel then can't go stale and sticky and gungy and bung them up for later on. And these carbs are going to sit empty now for probably 3 to 6 months. So the right thing to do is to empty them. So first job, get the key, fire this thing up, enjoy a bit of noise, run the carbs out completely. When that's done, get stuck into the tank. Welcome back to Delboy's Garage. Let's get stuck in. Come on, baby, let's go. Right. That's got the carburetors full of fuel and working. Now let's take the tank off and run them dry. Up here. Alright, now that has run for 15 minutes with the tank off. Just what's in the rubber hoses and the carb float bowls. 15 minutes. It just goes to show how much fuel's in your carburetors. I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to dry it right out because that would lean out the mixture and it gets very hot. So that's the right thing to do. I've run it for as much as I can. It's just starting to falter now. You just hear it coughing a little bit where it's just running down. All the float bowls are down. All the floats are laying against the base. Now obviously, if you're going to lay a bike up for years, you take the carbs off, take them apart, dry them completely, spray them with WD-40 inside and then put them together loosely. And when you come to reuse them, you rebuild them with new gaskets and they'll be perfect. But Leaving carbs full of fuel, it's always a bad idea, especially with the rubbish fuel we have these days. It's half full of water anyway, and they'll just corrode up inside and get full of snot and stuff, and you'll have to clean them. So they'll be fine now, and I reckon I could leave them for the next couple of 3 months without having to do anything. And I'll just put some fresh, super unleaded in there and run it through again. That was 15 minutes. Astonishing. 15 minutes running with the tank taken off and disconnected. No header tank, no nothing. Just goes to show how little fuel a carburetted engine uses. Right, let's get the tank rubbed out.
As we reach right to the sky, as we try to sweep it all away.
Right. Oh, put you there.
So tell me
There we go.
what you see.
Now the same goes for these, that's the same stuff as that was, it's just got a lacquer over the top of it. So I need to do the same thing. Gently slice these decals off and then sand back to make it pretty straightforward. Run this here and pour it.
You see.
Right, bring up to speed. Story so far. All 4 decals off. The simple principle of removing a decal I learned from my old mentor Milo. Just take a blade like that, like I did, and just literally slice it. Don't drag, don't scrape, don't saw. Just slice little pieces like you saw, and that takes them off. Then you just get where the lacquer went in and the sticker was set. You get a proud edge, so just take that off. You can block it out or sand the whole lot out. Now what I've used is an 80 grit filler paper that doesn't clog and it just tears the surface off. I've just busted all the shine, all the glaze, all the lacquer, everything. I've just busted it right back to a single all over coat. It's a bit patchy and it could do with a bit more, but honestly, that's what I need to go forward from now on. I need to bond and stick things to that, so the grippier, more scuffed up, scratched up surface, the better. And that's what I've got. Drained the tank as well. That was messy. I did it outside in the end. It didn't work in here. And the idea of that is that petrol's, as I said, finite. It only lasts so long. So I've literally got a gallon out of that. So I'm going to put it in Harley and I'll burn it in there, just make use of it, and I'll get a fresh gallon when it comes to restart that. As you saw, ran it up, virtually drained the carbs right out. So there's no fuel in that whatsoever now, and it will be fine not to end up clogging up. So right, from this point forward, I can now start doing what I want to do. Let's bring you over here and I'll show you what I've got in mind, just a brief outline. Right, now just going to try and give you, let's bring up a little bit. That's better. Try and give you a brief sort of idea. The thinking behind this is this comes up to here, I quite like that. That's the console for that, and I want to bring the same height across onto the tank. And rather than that kind of affair, I want to try and bring it all the way to this back edge and blend it in, and then blend the sides in. So The easiest way to do that is a little thin wire frame that I can weld together and make a little tiny thin frame that doesn't weigh anything. I don't want any weight on top of this, doesn't need any more weight on it, it's a performance bike. So just a little thin wire frame, and once that's done and it sits right and all looks correct, then I can just skin the thing in fiberglass, bond it to it, and then filler and then finish. It is pretty straightforward in theory, and I've never done it. So this is, I'm learning while you're watching. This is just an idea up here. It may work, it may not, it may end up in the scrap bin like the coal bunker door thingamajig. But I can honestly say I want to do something more with this tank. I want to bring the height up to make the bike look more hunched, more humpback and a little bit more aggressive on the front, and match this height here, so you've got one solid height rather than this sticking up. So that's the idea. Whether it works or not, we don't know. So let's show you what I've got in the way of wire to start making the frame to begin with. Wish me luck. Alright, now as you're probably aware, I may have said in the past, some of you very kind viewers do send us things that you can help with, things that you use in your work and so on. We got a contact from a chap called Ryan, so Ryan, I hope you're watching, it's that time, you're up. And he sent us this. Now, he works in the steel industry in one way or another, I won't bore you with all the details. And what he said is that they have this kind of scrap stuff knocking around, which just gets thrown away. Do we want it? So, yeah, obviously I'll have a look, see what it is. And this is what it is. It's, get a couple. They look like giant nails. Head one end, where are you? Kind of point the other. What they are is little offcuts of steel wire, mild steel wire, which they use in their work. Ryan uses in his work. So he said, look, I've got all this stuff, it goes in the scrap, do you want any? So I said, yeah, I'll have some of that. And this is what I've got to use for that console. It's great because it's very soft and bendable. I can make all sorts of shapes with it, and it doesn't weigh anything. It's quite light, and obviously being mild steel, I can weld it, get nice shapes on it. And this is going to be perfect. So yes, thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate your help with this. This is going to be used for this and for the tail unit as well. I like it because it doesn't weigh anything, and once it's enclosed in fiberglass, you won't even know it's there. So I'm going to cut these little nail head bits off, and there I've just got these bits of wire, which, how big they are. How thick are they? How thick are they? I imagine, where are we? Right. Don't know about inches, can't read inches. Right, 3mm. There we are, 3mm rod, 3mm metal rod, and I think that's ideal for the job. So I'm going to get the welder out, get some shapes bent up, and this is about just designing, thinking. This is the absolute nucleus of it. This is right down in the pit of where designing bike stuff is. Taking a little bit of time with some raw materials, thinking, curving, bending, shaping, making, and coming up with something that looks all right. Then throwing it in the scrap and starting again. That is the process, all too many times. So, wish me luck if they get stuck in. I can't really make a massive, interesting video of this because I'm thinking, designing and kind of imagining and looking while I'm doing this, and it's not particularly very interesting. So I'm going to get myself a bit further forward, get a halfway decent shape, and I'll show you what I've got in a minute. Wish me luck.
Like the ringing of a phone from all the thoughts and feelings that you should never know. My eyes and tongue are dry as a bone. I guess that is a reason to be leaving it alone. And heads will roll hour by hour, 'cause we see it all for we are the watchtower. When schemes you're controlling, the shit you're dissolved in will all start to fall.
The light that you knew will only shift to blue, and the eyes of the red have rolled back in your head.
When all is a lie and there's no compromise in this time. This time. Hey, hey. Lived a dream while new machines created these from singularities. While on the road, we watched them all rise and fall like atoms in a slipstream. I can't control the buzzing in my ears. I can't control direction in a fog that never clears. It's too hard to crack them fears. Too easy to be losing all your time between the years. And heads will roll hour by hour, 'cause we see it all for we are the watchtower.
When all the plan and all the scam change like shifting sand in a confident hand.
Okay, there we are. Fairing console frame thing. Let's give you a close look. Right. Now this has been a ridiculous 6.5 hours. Seems like a long time for that. But what I want to do is bring this across to there, down into this area which will house the speedo, then up, back over. Slot time to do that. So I'll show you what I mean. Hang on, reaching for the key. So little things like that. That's it. That's where it will be. Just thinking about that so you can get it undone. And it's all got plenty of space. It's a little bit moved. Where I've been, obviously there's about 40 welds on that and they're all kind of distorted a little bit. That laid flat at the beginning. I want a little corner here because I want to add a little accent to that rather than a curve, so blah blah blah. Right, in a nutshell, that is just a rough console frame. That's just a mock-up of it. That's going to be it. I'm going to use that. But what I mean is that's the start. That's all. Silly amount of hours to make something quite kind of experimental. And like all these things, I may think of something better and it goes in the bin, but it's worth doing. That's exactly what I had in mind. Let me show you this. This is the little speedo doodah. That's going to sit in there. So I'll make a little tray for that with a clip in the back of it that holds that, and I can screw in to it, and then that can then just clip into it each time I go out. And perhaps a little glass cover with a hinge, whatever. So you can see how far I've got to go on this. You know, fabricate a little sheet metal tray for that with a little hinge in it and a lid with a hole in the lid for glass and blah blah blah. It just goes on and on. So there's a lot to do in this. There's no wiring for this. It's battery operated, you know, like a USB charger thingy. Lasts about 30 hours. Never going to ride that far on this anyway. So there we are. Sum total of 6 hours plus the air clearing up. So I've been in the garage 7 hours. 9 o'clock came in. It's gone 4 o'clock now. There we are. Alright, so there we are. Honestly, 6.5 hours faffing about with that. But it works. It's symmetrical-ish. I mean, there are a couple of things where a curve has got a tiny bit more ellipse that side than that, but honestly, it's all going to get covered up. I'm going to skin the whole thing in fiberglass and then use body filler to make it smooth, and this will get bonded to the tank with panel bond, the stuff that sticks cars together. So honestly, it ain't going to go anywhere. And once it's on there and I can start fiberglassing it in, then that will just be a frame. You won't see any of that. So I will paint it with a tough black paint before I cover it up. The other thing is, for instance, there, that little hole, I'm going to put a little tube, kind of cut that out, put a little tube in there so that when rainwater goes in there, it will just drain out, and I'll leave that to come straight out. It will be a permanent drain tube, a little bit like an overflow in a tank. So I'll work all that out. It's just a long way yet. That joint there, I don't like that yet. Maybe I'll just put something in there to give that a curve. But honestly, 6 hours. And enough. Penny Pit stops home in a minute. I've got to get some dinner on. A long time to spend in the garage. And there's now about 6 hours of editing, rendering, and sending this up to YouTube. This should be up by the time you're watching this late at night, maybe 11, 12 o'clock on Saturday night, Sunday morning. But that's how long it takes. This has been a long day, and I'm really, really happy with that. Early days, got a few changes to make to it, but it's gone okay. You know, one of those things where you're happy with it. I'm happy with the shape of it, happy with the look of it, but I can't really tell whether it's right until I get a little bit more going on with it. So that's the next video. And there we are. I'm going to leave you with the wall of friends. Thanks ever so much for your amazing support. It is the support that we're getting from you that keeps this going. I just build my bike. I wouldn't do this on YouTube if I didn't have the support of the viewers. So thank you so much for making it worth it. That's the point I'm making. So I'll leave you to it. Wall of friends. Thanks for watching. Take it easy, ride safe. See you for the next one.